Good evening, you're watching News Mongolia and Beyond. I'm your host, Tanner Kambatr. And for top stories, today marks the UN Day. The Australian Volunteers Program hosts workshop on volunteerism. And Mongolia and South Korea forge collaboration in military and medical sectors. And for the news, stay tuned. Today is United Nations Day, marking the anniversary of the 1945 entry into force of the UN Charter. With the ratification of this document by the majority of its signatories, including the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, the United Nations officially came into being.
No other global organization has the legitimacy, convening power, and normative impact of the United Nations. No other global organization gives hope to so many people for a better world and can deliver the future we want. Today, the urgency for all countries to come together to fulfill the promise of the Nations United has rarely been greater. UN Day, celebrated annually, offers the opportunity to amplify our common agenda and reaffirm the purposes and principles of the UN Charter that have guided us for the past 78 years.
Mongolia joined the United Nations on the 27th of October 1961, while United Nations was formed on the 24th of October 1945. The way Mongolia has been working with the United Nations is through its engagement and participation in the General Assembly and all the other conventions, etc. In Mongolia, UN is being present with 23 agencies. 10 of them are resident in Mongolia, and 13 are supporting from outside. So how we work in Mongolia is that we have been doing a whole analysis of the situation, of the socio-economic, environmental, political, and economic analysis. And we found out where are the areas where the UN can add the maximum value in Mongolia. So what we have done is, we have together with the government signed a 5-year strategy, which is called the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework for the next 5 years, 2023 to 27. And in that priorities, we have identified the biggest 3 priorities that the UN works on. This has been signed by the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Economy and Development and 23 UN agencies. And we have looked at, the first area is about the human development and people's well-being, including health, education, food security, water sanitation, hygiene, safety and social protection, all the areas that make human lives better. So that's the first area of the work of the UN. The second area of the UN's work is balancing 2 urgent priorities on economic development and environmental and climate protection. Together we've called it green, inclusive and sustainable growth, which is achieving economic development for all Mongolians, but not at the cost of environmental degradation or the climate challenges. So it's balancing economy and environment. The third priority is called people-centered governance, rule of law and human rights, Hunni Irk. So making sure that we are creating an enabling environment for the government to really make this country a vibrant democratic organization, institutions operating well and effectively, and that's where the UN support.
The United Nations will host UN Day Concert 2023, which will be available on UN Web TV and the official UN YouTube channel at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on October 24th. The concert will feature the Environmental Symphony, the Movement, and world-renowned cellist Michael Fitzpatrick. Tuesday's concert will be held in the General Assembly Hall. This year's UN Day concert, with the theme of the front lines of climate action, is sponsored by the Permanent Mission of the Kingdom of Tonga to the United Nations, with support from PVBLIC Foundation's Family Offices for Sustainable Development. The theme of the United Nations Day concert reinforces Secretary General Antonio Guterres' call for faster, bolder climate action and intends to galvanize world leaders ahead of the COP28 climate conference in Dubai later this year and next year's International Conference on Small Island Developing States in Antigua and Barbuda.
In need of assistance aren't getting it.
In a dedicated effort to attract more volunteers and empower local communities, the Australian Volunteers Programme organised a comprehensive workshop and forum at the Ulaanbaatar Hotel on October 23rd. The event aimed to share insights from recent research on the volunteering landscape and foster collaborative efforts towards promoting and strengthening volunteer activities in Mongolia.
Over the past 1.5 years, AVP's Innovation Hub has been committed to exploring avenues for enhancing local volunteering in their partner countries. A significant component of this initiative was a desk-based research project conducted by Chancellor Mavak, an independent researcher for AVP. Her research delved into the current state of volunteering activities in Mongolia with the goal of comprehending the volunteering landscape in the country, and it was introduced during the presentation workshop.
The Volunteers program is an essential part of the Team Australia approach that we have here. The Embassy uses the Volunteers program to support the work that we're trying to achieve with the Mongolian government. So we use volunteers as a way of building capacity in the various organisations and partners that we work with, and it's a very important and vital plank of our work here. Yes, so a range of sectors. It could be in the education sector, it could be in the health sector. We're also looking at support for people with disabilities. You know, we've worked with the Mongolian Association of Sign Language Interpreters, but we're also broadening it out to support in government areas to help with policy development and capacity building in those areas. Agriculture is another area that we're keen to look at, but also women's economic empowerment and work with women's organisations as well. And we've also looked at sort of LGBTIQ and those organisations to support them as well.
Today's workshop is part of the Australian Volunteers Program Innovation Hub under our project called Global Accelerator. So the Global Accelerator is an opportunity for the volunteer program to share experience and knowledge within the different countries that we operate in. Today's workshop is really learning about the experience of volunteering in Mongolia, getting knowledge and information from Mongolian organisations, learning from that and then sharing it with the other countries that we work in. The Innovation Hub is a way that the Australian Volunteers Program can make a contribution to Mongolia and our other partner countries, in addition to bringing people to live and work in Mongolia, in addition to people working online and remotely. We see that the Innovation Hub gives us a space to learn from each other and increase the impact of volunteering in our partner countries. So it's a new way of working for the program. It's something that became very important during the COVID period, and it's I think a very valuable addition to the work that the Australian Volunteer Program does in Mongolia. At the moment, the Australian Volunteer Program is active in about 26 countries. In East Asia, we're working in Mongolia, but also in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. The program matches the Australian government's priorities, so we work very closely with our partners here at the Australian Embassy.
During the workshop, findings from the review along with insights from other recent research endeavors such as the National Situational Analysis and Youth Volunteerism were presented to a diverse audience of stakeholders.
I represent the network of Mongolian volunteer organizations, which promotes the volunteer activities in different organizations in Mongolia. This year, we studied volunteer activities in Mongolia with support from the United Nations. One of the important outcomes compared to a study conducted in 2012 is that volunteering has reached all 21 provinces of Mongolia. In 2012, informal volunteering was most common. common. Today, informal volunteers accounted for 48% of volunteering, while formal and state volunteer organizations like family, child, and youth development departments and youth organizations make up 49%. Between July and October 2023, we researched volunteer policy, regulation, and the legal environment. Around 440 volunteers participated in the study from 4 regions and 6 provinces at the macro, micro, and meso levels. The study showed how the state can support youth volunteering, what legal environment is needed, and the challenges working youth are facing. The study results show that the legal environment is good, but improvement is needed to regulate it. In particular, the management and safety environments need further improvement.
Participants included representatives from government bodies, civil society organizations, and international agencies. The workshop served as a platform for gathering valuable insights and recommendations aimed at encouraging further collaboration in the promotion of volunteerism throughout the country. AVP's commitment to locally led development is demonstrated through these efforts to engage local and international volunteering bodies to identify opportunities for contributing to Mongolia's volunteering priorities. The insights and recommendations generated from the consultation workshop are expected to guide future actions aimed at strengthening volunteerism and community engagement in Mongolia. This workshop marks a significant milestone in AVP's ongoing mission to support volunteering initiatives globally. As the event concluded, attendees left with a heightened awareness of the value of volunteerism and shared commitment to working together towards a more vibrant and engaged Mongolian community.
Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
The Minister of Defense of Mongolia, Sakhambayr, undertook a working visit to the Republic of Korea upon the invitation extended by Shin Won-shik, the Minister of National Defense of the Republic of Korea. As part of this visit, both sides reached a mutual agreement to initiate cooperation between the military industries and military hospitals of their respective countries. During the 2022 to 2023 academic year, more than 20 military personnel from the Mongolian Armed Forces have been making encouraging progress in their studies. They are enrolled in institutions like the Korea National Defense University, Korea Military Academy, Korea Air Force Academy, Korea Naval Academy, and Korea Defense Language Institute. The defense relations between Mongolia and the Republic of Korea are based on agreements and legal frameworks established between their respective defense ministries. This relationship thrives through reciprocal visits at various levels and engagements at interministerial policy councils. Additionally, collaborative training of military experts, joint exercises, and drills contribute to its strength. Moreover, it has flourished through shared participation in international conferences, seminars, and exhibitions.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.